Hello and welcome to Bipolar Talk, the space to discuss all things bipolarity. I'm Clément Bessard, the founder of Upstage, and our mission is to transform our bipolarity into an opportunity. We're lucky to welcome Katrina today to talk about how one actually received bipolar diagnosis, especially when it happened after birth. And I'll just let you present yourself, Katrina.
Hello, everyone. So my name's Katrina. I'm a mother to twins, 3-year-old twins. I'm neurodivergent, and I'm a mental health advocate for new parents, parents in the NICU, and anyone who has mental health. I have lived experience with postpartum psychosis, postnatal depression, anxiety, ADHD, and bipolar. And I'm here today to share my story about how I had a postpartum psychosis episode and how that later turned into bipolar.
Yeah, so can you tell us about it? I think it's really important because it's something that happened actually more than we think of.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, it'd be my pleasure. Every day when I actually talk to people about the things that had happened to me and what I had experienced, I always get at least one person that says, I didn't even know that existed. What do you mean you had postpartum psychosis after you gave birth? So in long story short, it all happened in December 2021. I gave birth to my twins, and I gave birth to them at 33 weeks. So it was quite intense. As you could imagine, full term is 40 weeks, and I gave birth at 33 to 2 babies. And my babies were taken to the neonatal intensive care unit, so the NICU, straight after they were born. So there were little things like having your baby on your chest after you give birth. You know, that's represented in the media a lot, but for me, that's not what happened. So I think that was actually the onset of my postpartum psychosis, because postpartum psychosis can actually happen within hours of giving birth. And so after that happened and my children were rushed off to the NICU, I waited at least 8 hours or more to hold at least one of my children. So they were in those little humidity cribs, you know, those little incubators, and you could only hold them at specific times. So then again, that was another onset. It felt like I was missing out on so many milestones and so many things that I had seen in movies, in photography, you know, in the media, and I never had that opportunity. So I think that again was another onset. You know, after I did eventually get to carry one on my chest, he had a CPAP on his nose, so it was really confronting. You know, he was struggling to breathe, he was struggling to regulate his body temperature. So, you know, knowing all that information, it was really stressful as a mum. So that was another onset. But mainly what set it all off, and we were talking about this earlier, COVID. We've all kind of stopped talking about COVID, but I'm here to bring it back. So I gave birth at the peak of the pandemic, you know. We gave birth when the government in New South Wales had opened its lockdown. So it was open to everyone, and we were able to, you know, kind of roam freely, whether or not you had vaccinations or not, etc., etc. I gave birth when the cases of COVID were at 50,000 people in New South Wales alone. So it was a soaring and very scary time for us. And they were the conditions that I gave birth in. So, you know, I mean, if you speak to my psychiatrist, she might agree to say, yes, of course, you had postpartum psychosis. And then after,
can you explain what it is? Because it seems like
of course.
But what is your definition of it?
Well, the definition from the Royal Women's Hospital in Victoria actually is that psychosis is a loss of reality. And there are a few things like sleep deprivation, like severe sleep deprivation. I was becoming an insomniac during that time. I needed to do things like express breast milk for my children in the NICU. But of course, you know, when you're a new parent, you're up at every 2-3 hours with your newborn baby. That was like what it was like for me, except my babies were in the NICU. I was getting no sleep. I was becoming an insomniac. I was becoming fixated on things. I was challenging the government. I was on Instagram, on Facebook, on everything, challenging different things that were happening in New South Wales and over COVID. And so I lost sleep. I was getting no sleep. Like there was some times where I was sleeping for 2 hours a day. And then some days I did a 24-hour whole stretch. So that's a recipe for mania, which a lot of bipolar people know.
Same thing. Can you explain what is mania? I think it's really important because we tend to forget that for us,
Yeah.
we have learned that, yeah.
Well, mania means different things to different people only because it looks different for different people. But there are very common and similar symptoms that we exhibit if you have mania. It's no sleep, it's euphoria, it's grandiosity where you feel really confident, you can conquer the world. It's things like talking really fast. It's things like having a very rapid heartbeat and your heart feels like it is pounding out of your chest. Those were the symptoms for me. And the Royal Women's Hospital in Victoria says things like, you know, if you have a hormonal drop or a very physically stressful birth, that is another contribution to your postpartum psychosis. So I had that, which I said earlier. But then the most important thing for, I think, the podcast is actually it's a genetic predisposition. So they say that if you have had bipolar already and then you've had your children, you might relapse and then have the psychosis. But if you haven't had that, like for me, in my case, it can be the beginning of your bipolar diagnosis, which is why I'm here on the show today to share my story, because I had no idea I was going to be bipolar after having a postpartum psychotic episode.
So it's, okay, it's like, when you were not sleeping, was it like during or before, and then what happened after?
Yes, sure. So I had the onset, like I said earlier, all those little things about my children's birth really set everything off, including COVID. And then after the onset, I was just not sleeping. I didn't sleep for 12 days. So it was intense.
And so you were still in manic phase, you would say, or what? Did you have like a depression afterward or not?
So the depression came afterwards, after we got discharged from the hospital. So we had the postpartum psychosis, and I was very psychotic. I had to be essentially supported to walk down to the emergency department because I thought by triaging in a space where people go to if they have COVID, right, which is the emergency department, if they're ill, I thought by walking in there I was absolutely going to end my life. So that was all part of the psychosis. Of course, that wasn't true. There was segregation and the hospital, you know, had it all mapped out. But yeah, like my husband escorted me down with the nurse unit manager of the NICU. So he escorted me down to the emergency department. And then I was in the emergency department for over 10 hours. So my poor husband was sitting in the emergency waiting room, just waiting to find out what happened for 10 hours. It was quite long. And then after that, I was taken to my room and I thought I was just going to sleep for a day or two, as they said to me. You know, you're just here to have some rest. But no, I was there for 33 days. So 33 days I was separated from my children, and they were only one floor down. There's actually a really brilliant article written about my family. If anyone wants to read it, I can send a link to you. It was written by The Guardian, Natasha May from The Guardian. And she actually talks about our story and how we were separated and how essentially that caused me to then have postpartum psychosis.
It's really like brave to share about it because I feel it's something that at least I didn't know it exists 2 years ago. And there's many things can be done differently. So it's not as brutal, so it's not as long.
Yeah.
And sharing about it is one of the things going to help many women do better. And so I think it's really interesting to understand those two phases, because you talk about the manic phases, but there's also usually the depression phase.
Yeah, that's right.
And I feel like having the full story is important for us to understand.
Yeah, so after the mania, we'll put that in a little bubble. So my children and I were discharged from the hospital at the same time. So they were about almost full term because they had stayed in the hospital for 7 weeks. And then I was discharged from a adult ward, and together we went home. There was no mother-baby unit for us in the public sector. It was still being built. So I should have gone to Westmead Public Mother and Baby Unit, but that was not the case. So I suffered for 5 to 6 months. I left the hospital and, within 2 weeks, I had the onset of being depressed. I was clinically depressed for 5 to 6 weeks. And then I was only able to go to a mother and baby unit at the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Camperdown, just here, maybe like 10 minutes away. It was the first public mother-baby unit to ever, and I mean ever, open up in New South Wales. So I was one of 4 mums in there. We were the first piloting, set of families to go in, and I was able to go in there, and then that's where I received my bipolar diagnosis. The psychiatrist, got my history, got my story, and then we looked at it and said, yes, I had the postpartum psychosis, I had the mania, and then I had a postnatal depression, which inevitably means I'm going to have a bipolar diagnosis. But I do want to add this. Not all women who have postpartum psychosis end up having bipolar. You have to have the depressive episode or other things, other dispositions in your history to allow you to then have that diagnosis. I'm actually in a group with a lot of women who had postpartum psychosis, and a few of them have actually told me that they never went anything further than the psychosis, which is great.
Yeah. No, I think it's really a subject which is still I would say taboo. Because we all want to, as you just say, Katrina, see it in a movie, perfect birth, and everything is going well, but it happened.
It did.
I think I feel when I hear your story, there seems to improve, so there was something new opened. And what would you like to say to women in this situation on when should you go? Because at the end of the day, we want to help people.
Yeah.
And so sharing your story is one part, but also you have life experience.
Yeah.
So you can tell maybe some advice.
Of course. It'd be my honor to give some advice. So the first piece of advice that I would give is to know that you're not alone. It's a rare statistic. The statistic of this illness is 1 in 1,000 women. But I want you to know that you're not alone. I want you to be able to check in with yourself. Sometimes you don't see it. For me, it was my husband that saw it. For a lot of other women, it was their partner or their mum or their family or their friends. But keep checking in yourself. Go to the GP. Go to your general practitioner and, have some regular checkups, because they're checking in on your baby, but are they checking in on you? So you've got to take that step to make sure you go and see your doctor, see them as much as possible, because they might see a change in difference. The next thing I would advise is sleep. Get as much sleep. If you're not getting sleep, I'd say go to your doctor and see how you can help with your sleep hygiene, and lean into your people. So lean into your family and friends and let them come and take care of your baby for an hour or so you can catch up on an hour of sleep. I wish I had that, but with the pandemic, my kids were in the NICU and we weren't seeing any family and friends because everyone had just been in lockdown. It was It was so intense. Like, no one knew who to go to see, who to mingle with. But yeah, I definitely recommend leaning into your family and friends because they know you best as much as you know yourself. And when you're in a state of lost reality, you know, it's hard for you to tell yourself, because I thought that I was okay, but everything was on fire.
Yeah, but that's the toughest thing for us as bipolars. Like, when you go into this up phase, you really think everything is fine. And
When it's not.
and it's true, like accepting the fact that other people around you can help you understand, and the fact that you can also, like what I did, you know, what I think you should do is, like, it's a small form where you kind of like ask question about yourself, about how do you think it happened and what do you want to do. For me, it's pretty simple. If I can summarize it, it's like it usually happens when I don't sleep.
Yeah.
So if I see that I don't sleep, so I have small pills for sleep and big pills for sleep. But after one day of like or 2 days of not sleeping, I'm like, I don't care. I take the big pills. So it just put me down. And then I stop. I usually stop maybe 1 day after, or maybe 3 days after. But just like fixing my sleep, I have many other things to fix my sleep. But for me, the biggest triggers. And I also have like a kind of a plan with my partner, with my family, to tell me what's going on. And so, but I'm reading it down, and now it's more clear, and I don't have to think too much when it happens, because I know the plan. And you should too.
I love that. I actually do have something like that. I've got a bit of a safety plan and what it looks like what I look like when I'm manic and what I look like when I'm depressed. And so there's a little checklist that my husband and, you know, my sister and family can do, and it really helps. But I love that you really prioritize and know yourself that you need sleep. Like, it's the moment you aren't getting any sleep, it's alarm bells. And I don't think they teach this in school.
It's not that like there's many things about this. It's like, but yeah, it's not perfect, and it's why we're here, and it's why we're sharing. It's like, because we can do so much better.
Of course.
So I want to go back a little bit to your story, and like about the diagnosis and about how did it feel.
So the diagnosis itself felt a loss of words, clearly. It was hard. I was in denial. So I've just recently written a little piece for COPE. So COPE is the Centre of Perinatal Excellence, and they specialize in mental health for perinatal new parents and expectant parents. And you'll see on that article I share about my motherhood, bipolar diagnosis, and being neurodivergent. And, you know, I think how I felt about it was shocking. And it might be a shock to a lot of listeners too. Maybe they felt the same way. I was just like, what do you mean I have bipolar? But you know what? It was flagged. So on my discharge papers from my psychotic episode, it actually said that I have like a predisposition to now be bipolar. I read that and I shrugged it off. I was like, no way, I'm not going to be bipolar. And here I am on a bipolar podcast.
Yeah, I think it's really important to go a little bit deeper, Katrina.
Yeah.
Because I feel all of us, this moment where like you got the diagnosis and the moment where you accept it.
Yeah.
And it's two different times. And if you tell us a little bit about your journey.
To be honest, I think the moment I accepted it was on Monday. The Monday that just passed. So that was when, thank you. So I think the article was published, and, you know, writing the article, I was gaining the acceptance. But I think it was on Monday, and now that I'm on a bipolar podcast, that I can say, yes, I have accepted the diagnosis. I am advocating for it. I'm speaking up for it. But I do have to add stigma. Like, I feel like there is such a stigma with some people where they don't delay your diagnosis and in particular, but they delay your acceptance of the diagnosis because of how they make you feel or how they put their feelings on towards who you are and with this new diagnosis. So definitely shock, acceptance. And now I feel like I can really use this as a great opportunity and as a great platform to keep speaking up for people who have gone through postpartum psychosis, postnatal depression, and now, of course, bipolar. So thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Quick break. Can you let us a review on Apple Podcasts or the platform of your choice? It really helps us break the stigma around bipolarity. Let's get back to the episode. I feel like you're right. It's two different moments in time. Getting the diagnosis, which should be done sometimes in a better way. But then it takes the time for us to be like, yeah, I'm different. And I like the fact that you use the term neurodivergent. For example, I don't like to use the term bipolar disorder. I rather use bipolar because it's just our brain that work differently.
And I agree.
Of course, it's like, it's tough, but it's manageable. And most of the bipolar people I know, everything's going fine. And we achieve our goal, and it's just like it takes effort and energy, and you have to build your own system. So I guess it's what you're starting to do because you start to accept.
Yeah, that's right. But I think building your own system too is really like your partner. If you've got a partner, you've got to build your people. So you've got your partner, and then your parents if they're around, or if you talk to them, any siblings that you have, and some really good solid friends that you don't have to ever repeat and re-explain your situation. They just sit there with a cup of tea, and they can just talk to you through that. And I actually had a really recent episode. It was a hypomanic episode, and in that episode I was able to just go to these friends' houses and just have them talk to me and help me regulate what was actually happening. And I think we really need that with people who live with bipolar. You just need to live with some really good people.
Yeah, and you're right. It's like building this team, building this the system. But it's tough. It takes time, and it takes to communicate. How did you communicate actually about your bipolarity? Because that's not easy, and for me, I was ashamed a little bit.
Yeah, it felt similar.
I talk about it openly. I usually it's not the first thing I say to someone. But if I want to...
Not on the first date.
No, but it depends.
It depends on how open you are.
Exactly, and it depends about the person, and do I want to talk about it?
Yeah.
It's like sometimes I just want to talk about
Yeah, sometimes you just choose your people.
But then I'm okay with it. I don't even care what the people are going to think, It's like I am who I am. But how did you manage to talk about it, and how was it?
Well, I'm a bit of a talker, and I think that's why we've landed on this podcast. I'm a little chatterbox. I always have been ever since I was a little girl. But communicating, in the episode itself, I find that people really struggle to communicate because there's so much happening neurologically and then physically. But communicating, once I got the diagnosis, I was able to start going to talk therapy. So I have an amazing therapist who, has been able to help me emotionally regulate so that I can make this a physically possible thing in my life, because I now live with that, right? And so I go to talk therapy. I have some really good friends, my husband, my family. But sometimes there are some days where it is hard because stigma exists. Sometimes the generational difference between, your parents and you can be hard. So that's how I've communicated. I've done my best to just try and be honest. There's no shame, and there should be no stigma around a bipolarity diagnosis. So just being honest about it and keeping everyone on the same page, because I find that when you're in mania, your family and friends are on page 1 and you're on page 2000. So yeah, just being honest and keeping everyone on the same page.
Can you give us a bit more example? Because I want us to be able to say, how do I do it? Because it takes courage. At what moment, what word did you use? I feel that's typically the type of thing you want to leave a bit of a guide. So if you can just give us an example on how you did it, maybe with some friend or family member.
Yeah, sure. Well, the first step for me with therapy was actually going to my GP. So opening up, that's the first and the hardest step a lot of people with mental health really struggle with. But I just went to my doctor and I went, blah, blah, blah. Specifically, I couldn't tell you what I said, but I was just saying how I felt at that time and what was happening. And then my doctor said, hey, let's do talk therapy. And that's worked really well. And then with my family, I've been able to use language that is kind of more appropriate to them and their time, and just explain things that they're, just neurological differences just in the way our brains are wired. And like we're traveling on different highways, if we could talk about it in that way. And then with my husband, I mean, he just knows. I due credit to my husband. I love you, Donald. Honestly, you found and identified when I was unwell. And he made the most important call. So when we talk about communication, sometimes someone has to make the call. And for my family, my husband made the call and was the reason I was able to get some help.
Yeah, so I'm going back because I think it's like, at what moment did you have the conversation with your friend? Like, was it in person? Was it on the phone? At one moment, did you one-on-one? Did you share with everyone?
Well, in my case, I didn't actually have to really tell them much. It was on my discharge papers. So that kind of helped me a little bit when I went to the doctor at the mother-baby unit. They were able to say that that was my diagnosis, and then it was on my discharge papers. So although I did try to verbally say things like, hey, just letting you know I've received a new diagnosis, here are the discharge papers, they kind of receive that. But that's not the case for everyone. Like sometimes you go to a psychiatrist and they don't give it to you on paper. But it's just, really important that you can just use the language and say, hey, I've just received the diagnosis of being bipolar. I'm still processing it. I would love for you to sit with me or to hold my hand in this, because it's a really hard thing to process. Like for 3 to 4 years, I was in denial. Not just shocked, I was in denial.
Yeah, I think we all have it. Like, it depends on the period of having it is different. But it took me some time also. I was quite lucky. It took me a few weeks actually but it was different process. I will say the first step, first maybe a few weeks to take some pills. Then another few months to talk about it with everyone, and then it's like progressively, but I think you're right, and like sharing about it and talking about it really helped me also.
It's really powerful.
Yeah.
And it brings great strength. And I think it breaks stigma.
Yeah, and it's also about like accepting that we need help and we cannot do it on our own, and people around you actually will be happy to help you.
But I love that, because it's like we've also done the work, which is why we're able to now talk about it, because when you're in the thick of it, you can't actually do much. Like, it's foggy. You can't see clearly. You can't speak clearly. But, it's an amazing platform that you have, and I just, think you're doing an amazing job.
Yeah, thank you for being here. But that's the thing, and it's what I want you to hear is like, it's tough.
Yeah.
We've been here.
Yes.
And we got it. We got it through. And it's like, you don't have to be alone. We can like do it with you. And I think it's really important what you're doing also with media is like, saying that you can contact me. I guess you can be contacted also. And we'll be happy to help you.
But also, I just think what's so important about what you've just said is that it's what I said earlier. We don't have to re-explain. We just get it.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting that, because if you look back at your own story, it's like a lot of things that happened. And you figure it out. So because you're here, you accept it. And I want us to understand a little bit, like being a parent to have bipolar I would say, for me, I'm not a parent yet. But
You'll love it when you do, if you decide to become one.
I want to, yeah. And I want to know because I'm scared about my sleep. I want to have your advice and tell us like how do you manage?
Well, it's really good that I've got a partner because we tag team in things. So we kind of do like I'm the morning and afternoon shift, and he helps with the night because I have to sleep. Like I have to be very, very vigilant with sleep. Like it's doctor's orders that I have to sleep. So in your case, if you do decide of a kid or two, you know, like you just need to have a really good safety plan with your partner, and family too. Like there were nights when my mum would come and help, and my mother-in-law, and you know, so helpful. You just need to lean into your people. I think that's my mantra, lean into your people. But that's the advice I could give, is that you just need a solid safety plan on sleep and allow yourself to not feel guilty, because neurologically you function different if you don't have sleep because you've got a particular diagnosis, right? So for me, it took me a while to accept, but my husband did an amazing job with the night feeds. And then as soon as he had to go to work, you know, I was on from the moment the sunrise.
Yeah, it's like, I feel you're right. It's like you have, and it's always the most important thing for me, but it's not easy to do, is how do you put your mental health first? And to accept that if I put my mental health first, then I can help other people.
Exactly.
And I can be there for my family, I can be there to help other people, I can be, but if I start to do it in the other order, then
it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You can't. You just can't. It's not sustainable. It's more detrimental. You just honestly need to accept that this is a diagnosis that you have, and you will come to your own acceptance if you're listening and you're still accepting. But, you know, for me, I accepted things at different times. Like, I have had to accept different episodes at different times. But like I said to you, you know, the world knows I'm bipolar now as of Monday when that article got released. But, yeah, you just have to prioritize yourself first, because if you can't take care of yourself, then you can't possibly take care of your partner or your children.
Yeah, and it's really powerful, and that's probably the first rules whenever someone come and volunteer or work with us, is like, okay, you accept your mental health is a priority.
Yeah.
And whatever the work, whatever the reason, you put it first. And it's okay, because most of us are bipolar inside the stage, so we understand. And I feel that I'm trying to do that, and like, it's never easy, but like how to communicate with other people, how to take a break when you need to.
Just be honest.
Yeah, because I'm a big believer into like being able to work full time for most people. I'm a big believer into achieving great stuff as bipolar people. But we need to accept that mental health is a priority to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I feel like when it goes wrong, it's usually because you do it the other way around, and then you auto-stigmatize yourself, saying that, oh, I cannot do that, I cannot have this job, I cannot. No, you can. Maybe the only thing I would say for work is like, you cannot have job where your sleep is gonna be
disrupted. Yeah.
That may be the only rule. So if you work at night,
Yeah, like a night shift nurse or something.
that's the only thing.
Yeah.
And I know actually a lot of psychiatrists and like nurses who are bipolar.
Really?
Yeah. There's a lot of psychiatrists.
Well, bipolar people are destined for many things. They just, you know, need to find what it is.
Yeah. And it's like, and so yeah, that's the only thing. Like no night shift. And even your routine is like important, if you can start kind of the same time every day for work, this type of thing. But then we can do whatever. And it's interesting because most of the people, like the proportion of bipolar people is higher in actually rich city. Like for example, Los Angeles, San Francisco. And because like we do a lot of art, we do a lot of like entrepreneurship. And it's really like, it's tough, but it's like kind of like either you don't accept it and it's going to be really difficult life, and we've all been there, and it's going to be difficult at some point. But then when you accept it and you do the work,
Yeah.
it's awesome. No,
It's pretty electric.
yeah, no, but I see people, like, wow, like they did amazing things. And it's really like, yeah, I'm always to have hope. I would say that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people that live with bipolar definitely have to have that hope, have that little tiny piece of guiding light, and know that, like I said earlier, you're not alone, and you're doing a good thing right now listening to this podcast. So yeah, you're not alone, and you are destined for amazing things. I mean, if you think about our brains, we're wired so differently and we see the world differently, but it's an amazing view.
Yeah, and it's like the coolest thing for me is like, I would say empathy. So I accepted I didn't want to have those high anymore because I know it's a problem and then I will pay for it. But the fact that emotionally and with empathy, and I think it's great for the world, to have difference.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I just totally spaced out with my ADHD.
Yeah, no, but like, that's one thing. It's actually interesting because I discovered that having bipolar and ADHD is pretty common.
Yes, it is more common than I thought. I mean, I'm in a few Facebook support groups and, put the question out there, and there are a lot of people that have responded to say that. And actually, in saying that, I actually think my psychosis was heavily driven by my ADHD tendencies. So I was undiagnosed at the time. I only received the ADHD diagnosis a few weeks ago, and it's in that I've now been able to reflect that I had those tendencies, and possibly maybe that's the reason I had the psychosis. But also there's so many reasons why you could go into a manic psychotic episode. Like, someone could pass away, you could lose your job, or something really exciting happens. I mean, that's it. It's the bipolar. It's a yin and a yang. It's a high, it's a low. Anything can happen. So it's about being really vigilant, about having the education, because, my husband and I are quite highly educated, but we had no idea about postpartum psychosis. So that's why we're sharing our story, because more people need to know about it.
Yeah, totally. And it's, as you say, is like, it can be triggers, but sometimes it's only like bad luck, and it just happened. And for me, it's like probably the toughest, because like when you do everything that you should do, and it just the triggers, it's tough. But
you've done everything possible. Like, you think you've done it by the rule book, and then something happens, and then it all kind of falls apart for a little bit.
Yeah, but what I discovered is that even when it happens, the duration of the episode and the intensity of the episode can be managed.
Yeah.
And then if you can, like, if it's only like not getting really into depression and being like a little bit depressed because you manage it really quickly, then it's okay. Like, okay, it's tough, let's be honest, but then it's not as bad, and then it's fine. So if I want to go back a little bit to your story, it's like, you had like all of those difficulty, right? I feel now that you accept it, like you have all this energy and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's like, so I would say, like, how did you learn from that, and how did you make you, I guess, a better person of understanding your feeling? And I think important to see the positive.
Yeah, so definitely the positive is that I've been able to do talk therapy, and then I also now have a private psychiatrist. So during this period, I didn't have a private psychiatrist due to funding, due to so many circumstantial things. I just had 2 babies. But now I have a psychiatrist who's allowed me to regulate, find the real practical things about my life. But you know what? There's a big shortage of psychiatrists. So I'm not sure if you know, but there is a mass resignation of psychiatrists at the moment, and we need psychiatrists. Psychiatrists are the doctors that can give the diagnosis, can prescribe medication, have so much education. So on the positive note of that, you know, we need to give psychiatrists a pay rise. We need them to stay. We need you to go to your appointments. You know, I need to go to my appointments, and that's the best way to stay well, is honestly tapping into your doctors and your therapists, and they can be your guiding lights for the positivity of what you live with.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and it's a problem, like, for sure, but it's why we also have like online community, and like, because the more we call it like the pillar of your house and building your team, the more pillar you have, the easier it is. And sadly, we don't live in a perfect world. Sadly, not everybody can have a great psychiatrist, but everybody can build their little team, and even like having one person they can share it with and trust is like one of the things that helped me the most. Is like, I have a friend who also has bipolar, and we talk every week.
Oh, good.
And we just like, how are you doing, and just listening to each other and telling each other like, okay, how do you, like, maybe you're a little bit in the starting of phase and everything. And this is basically free, and that's one of the projects I want to do. I haven't done yet. But like, to find a way to help people connect and have this bipolar friend who help each other.
That'd be amazing. That would be so amazing to have. Like, I think when I received the diagnosis, I was searching far and wide for people who had postpartum psychosis or people who live with bipolar. Like, I think creating a community like that and having, you know, a weekly coffee or a monthly catch up. It doesn't matter what state you're in, you know, you can do it with the people there. I think that would be an amazing, amazing thing to do for people with bipolar.
Yeah, we will build it.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it right now.
So last question, Katrina, is like, if you had a magic wand, what would you change in mental health?
If I had a magic wand, I would change many things, but for this topic in particular, I would make sure that we had better accessibility and access to psychiatrists. I would put more funding into the psychiatric field. I would put more psychiatrists in the ED so people like my husband don't have to wait 10 hours. There's so many things, but mainly it's accessibility and funding, because if we can get the access, then you can be acknowledged, and then you can receive the diagnosis and move on with your life of opportunity.
Yeah, and one thing, because like, if you have like, we went through politics and we live in France, like passing laws, this type of thing. But what I'm trying to make people understand who have the power to do something about it is like, it's really like one of the best return of investment, because helping people like us is helping like us getting a job, is going to then pay tax and helping.
It's a cycle, right? Exactly. Like, it goes hand in hand. And I think if the health minister of New South Wales and all other states are listening to this podcast, we need your help. We need people to be diagnosed, because with the lack of access today, I think that there are a few people, or a lot of people, who are undiagnosed.
Thanks a lot, Katrina. It was a great time. We'll do it again.
Yeah, of course. That was so lovely. Thank you so much.
To learn more about bipolarity, go to our website, upstage.com, HOPESTAGE.com. See you soon.